Apologies if I'm not in the best of moods.
Good.
I can't escape this cough. Okay. Is everybody ready?
These words are accepted.
All right. 3, 2. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cosmere Connections. We're a bunch of book-loving nerds looking back and rereading the entire Brandon Sanderson series involving the Cosmere. My name is Reader, and I am joined by Swiggity Swoo.
Hey, I'm Swiggity Swoo. I wrote the theme song for this podcast. Check it out.
Yeah. I am joined by John.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm just here for the kicks.
And I am joined by Kay.
Hello, I'm just hanging out.
And today we are going to be reviewing Mistborn Part 3, A Children of a Bleeding Sun, chapters 21 through 25. Now, is there anything we would like to say overall about this set of chapters?
Things are starting to really heat up.
Yeah.
This is where it starts getting good.
It does. The all is lost moment happened in this branch of chapters.
Yep.
It's very much.
It's picking up, which is very exciting.
It's very much the train has left the station. We're picking up steam.
Yeah, which is crazy because, like, you know, if you think about it, I guess maybe compared to some of the other books, but it feels like no time was wasted. You know, all of this was set up, and it wasn't all set up, but there was a lot of setup, and then things really started to pick up in these chapters.
There's no middle sort of, here's just something just so for fun.
Yeah, there's still a little bit
basically.
There's still a little bit of setup here for things that are happening later on, but it's definitely picking up a lot.
It was hard to not read ahead. This week. Yeah.
I listen when I do like the full section. I listen to the audiobook and then I go back and read my chapter with highlighter in hand. And I was listening at work today and I'm like, wait a minute. This is the next no, and here I am halfway through the next section again already. So forgive me if I get ahead of myself.
I like to listen to it too. I'll usually listen to it and then I'll do the same thing. I'll just go through it, like the actual text. But this week, there's a chapter where they're running a lot. And I was like, I'm going to wait to listen to this. I'm going to wait till I'm at the gym because I want like that 4D experience of like running while I'm listening to the running section.
You want to hit that
actually going to the gym?
Yeah. But this was after work. I can't go to the gym before work. I'm too lazy. But after, got to go there eventually.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to cover and not a lot of time, so let's try to make sure we make the most of it. Sweetie, I believe you have chapter 21.
I do. So, chapter 21 is all about our boy Kelsier. But before that, I'll talk a little bit about the epigraph, which basically says, "The hero of ages shall not be a man, but a force. No nation may claim him, no woman shall keep him, and no king may slay him. He shall belong to none, not even himself." Which is interesting to me because it sounds kind of like the prophecies vaguely have to do with the author of this book. It's kind of saying like, well, these prophecies do fit me, but they could kind of go for a lot of people and they don't exactly match up with me.
Yeah.
Which we have a little bit more on that in the actual meat of the chapter when Kelsier is reading the Lord Ruler's diary, which that's what I like to call it.
Yeah.
Lord Ruler's diary.
It's not his journal, it's his diary.
Yeah. Dear diary.
Dear Princess Celeste.
What's the difference between a diary and a journal?
I mean, usually the
women
pink
have
cover and the
diaries,
tiny
men
little
have
lock
journals.
key.
So, Kelsier is on a canal boat going to meet up with the Ska Rebellion. He arrives at the meeting place and he kind of walks out onto the canal boat and he uses his allomancy to float up in the air like a badass. Because he's really just trying to display his powers. You know, he wants to be seen. He wants the people to see him as
Like the true drama queen he is.
Yep.
absolutely as Mistborn. He meets up with Demoux, and I forgot to mention that Yeden is like all in at this point. Yeden is referring to him as Lord Kelsier, as the reader had pointed out in the podcast notes. And like, yeah, it's a total change from before they had to talk about like, oh, Yeden's bad attitude is one of the things you need to conquer. I'd say they got over that.
Check.
Eden is definitely Team Kelsier right now.
He's shipping Kelsier right now. Literally.
Yeah.
So they meet up with Demoux, who is a young, passionate captain in the rebel army. And he leads them and their men to the entrance to the rebel caves, which immediately remind Kelsier of his favorite place on Earth, the pits of Hathsin.
Oh boy.
Kelsier is bothered by this, like, because it obviously has traumatic memories attached to it, but he does not let this show. He enters the caves and he says, I beat the pits. They have no power over me.
Well,
Even
he
though
does
on the
let it
inside,
show.
He's cringing.
Yeah, but only in his head. Like he forces himself to go through the motions. Like he always does the stoic face thing, you know.
Yeah, he puts on a strong facade,
Yeah.
even though it clearly does bother him to be climbing back into caves again.
Yep.
The caves are natural, but they contain no atium, and we learn that using allomancy near atium geodes destroys them. Kelsier and Ham inspect the other cave entrances, and it is clear that Kelsier is trying to bolster the army's confidence. Ham asks Kelsier what they will do once the army has taken over the city and they have the atium. Kelsier simply says that that's Yeden's problem. Ham is still not convinced the army will be enough to overthrow the final empire. Kelsier says that, hey, you agreed to the plan before, but Ham retorts saying that he's been leading them and has grown attached, and perhaps he wasn't meant to be a general. Do we remember what Kelsier says in response to this? Or what he thinks?
I'm a bodyguard, not a general, and Kelsier says I'm a thief, not a prophet.
But sometimes we have to be what the job requires.
You-
I wrote that line down too. It's like one of my favorite lines. So, Kel also tells Ham that he brought Yeden to replace him. Ham thinks it's too soon, but Kel says the army will be Yeden's eventually, and Yeden needs something to do with the plan. He's starting to get jealous of the rest of the crew. Ham mentions how beautiful the caves are, and Kelsier says that all he sees are the pits of Hathsin. We are treated to an inner monologue where Kel recounts his time in the pits, and it sounds horrible.
We finally get a good view on that, yeah.
Yeah, like, we kind of knew they were bad, but this is like an in-depth description of it. And this is something that, like, if I'm feeling like creeping myself out at night, I'll go on YouTube and watch, like, videos of people crawling through tiny little caverns and, like, squeezing themselves through little caves, because that's one of my fears, is, like, I would never go spelunking. I get so creeped out by that. The idea of, like, squeezing yourself into a hole and not being able to get back out, like, just sounds horrible.
And that's where the scars come from.
I'm sorry, but why would you watch a video of something that you're afraid of on purpose at nighttime?
I don't know. People do it all the time. It's a whole genre.
Somehow.
Yeah. I like that creepy feeling in the like, it makes the hairs on your neck stand up. It makes me feel alive, you know?
Nope.
I just need to feel something. Where was that? So, Kelsier spends a week there, and he's inspecting the army. He's basically just telling them, like, oh, this looks great. You guys are doing great. You know, he's trying to bolster their confidence. But he still senses apprehension from the many ska. So, he asks Ham, whom among the rebels has shown a lack of faith/discipline? Ham points out that a skinny fella who has tried to escape before, and Kelsier's like, no, I want to see someone, you know, a little bit more believable, somebody who might actually be able to challenge me. And so Ham says, "Oh, that bilge guy, he's like not really into it, but he would never outwardly disobey." And Kelsier says, "I can work with that." So Kelsier riots Bilge into vocalizing his insecurities about the plan. And his whole idea here is he wants to attack the concept of failure head on, but he can't be the one to vocalize that, you know. He wants someone else to kind of step up and say, like, hey, this is stupid, we're all going to die. And his plan here is he's going to tell Bilge that if he wants to leave, then he can challenge young Captain Demoux here. And if he beats Demoux, then he can leave. And if not, then he'll probably die. And Bilge is like, well, we're going to die anyways, so give me a sword. Let's go.
Uh-huh.
And right off the bat, as they're fighting, it's clear that Demoux is not going to win. You know, he's parrying the blows or whatever, but it's clear like he's not on the same level as Bilge. So Kelsier uses his little steel pushing abilities to help Demoux win the fight. And he even goes so far as to like make it seem like Demoux can stop Bilge's attacks with his hand. Like, it kind of gives people the impression that they're going to have allomancy during all of this.
Mm-hmm.
When they go to overthrow the Empire.
Yeah.
Which is just a lie, basically.
Kelsier lied? No.
And
a
doesn't
little manipulative.
it doesn't Ham go, you lied to my whole army?
No, my
Yeah.
army.
Yeah. And
Yeah, that's what Cal says back.
Yeah,
One
there's no
thing-
god complex here.
No, absolutely not.
You know what's messed up about this too is I didn't even catch this the first time I read it, but like he was gonna kill Bilge. Like I can imagine Kelsier like pushing on Demoux's sword hand, like trying to get him to do the final blow, and it says that Demoux was resisting him,
Mm-hmm.
and then Kelsier was like, "No, I'll let him live." Like that's
He only
so
lets
messed
him
up.
live when his arm is broken. Like, he was full Sith Anakin. If you're not with me, you're my enemy.
Do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kill him.
Yeah, Kelsier is vicious. He
Mm-hmm.
is. He's very he is very ruthless. And that's definitely shown in this chapter, even like with his own army and his own soldiers. He's still very ruthless with them.
He's brutal, right?
He's very brutal.
He's very strict. He won't let anyone leave, and he won't. Which is crazy because, in a way, he's kind of doing what the Lord Ruler did. Like, he's forcing all these men to stay in this cave, which he's even creeped out by.
Yeah, and if you kind of think about it, it kind of goes against what he's been telling Vin this entire time, which is trust and trusting the people that you work with to not rat you out. And the reason that he's keeping everyone there is so that they don't run to the obligators.
There's
or
always
the
another
garrison.
secret.
So it's like,
Mhm.
it's like, do you really, like, you're preaching trust and acceptance of people, but in this case, you're not willing to trust people.
Well, he trusts his people. He's not trusting the 3,000 plus random strangers.
But they're still technically his people, because as he said, it's his army.
Yeah, but his
It's
people
his.
is his crew.
Which, like, I was wondering, like, okay, bro, you said earlier that it was Yedin's army. You said you're giving it over to him, and then at the end of this chapter, you're saying, actually, it's my army. Like, which is it? It can't be both.
Well, it's his army to give to Eden.
Yeah. It's Yedin's army, but it's really Kelsier's army,
Yeah.
I think is what it comes down to. You know, Yedin calls him Lord Kelsier. I think that's pretty telling.
And
Yeah.
the only reason that they're able to gather this many soldiers is because of Kelsier
Mm-hmm.
and Kelsier's
Yeah.
reputation. Because as seen, a lot of the people that they're recruiting are coming there because of Kelsier.
Uh-huh.
Which you mentioned this earlier, reader, but Kelsier does have another secret. When we get that line, that's how the chapter ends, and that's he has some hidden plan that has to do with his reputation. Basically, he's getting people to revere him in a certain way for more than just his ego.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anything else?
I think we covered it.
Okay. Chapter 22. I'm going to try to speed read this, so we got a lot to cover. Chapter 22, in the epilogue, they talk about the deepness and how the people didn't see the end of the world for what it was until it was too late, which is very realistic in a sense.
Yeah.
Modern day, kind of. Finn reads the diary, and she reads how Terracemen can store strength big at weak at night, and she thinks that the Lord Ruler is a whiny god. Spook enters and say Doxson is here. He also gives Vin a handkerchief before running off. Vin goes to find Doxson, but ends up meeting with Sazed again. He's still working on the diary, but no longer has glasses. He comments how much he's enjoying learning about his own name, culture, his own home and culture. Even the tundra is different, and he comments that the plants used to be green, and Vin is still wondering what the heck is up with these people and green plants. Vin uses reverse psychology, and it is super effective. And Sazed explains how Feruchemy works and how they use metals as storage, which is similar to how he compared himself to a storehouse a while back. They save an attribute, then draw upon that reserve later. We have seen strength, sight, and that's a little bit later in the chapter, memories, and speed is also we see in the final chapter, but also implied in when he goes from Felice to Luthadel to find Vin. And that's why Sazed wears so many earrings and secretly bracers. The Lord Ruler tried to ban Terracemen from touching metal. It didn't really work. Now nobility wear wood-painted rings and other things such as buttons to look like the Lord Ruler who actually wears real ones, which is a sign of strength. Like, not I am the Alamancer, nothing can affect me. Keepers store important aspects of the pre-Lord Ruler history and lifestyle, and Sazed's specialty is religion, and he stores it in his metal mines, and that's how he's able to remember 200 something odd religions, even
Well,
though
it's like 300 something odd.
300 something, I don't remember the exact
Yeah.
number. A big number. A big number. Even though he has not been able to sadly find his own religion. Vane asks about the handkerchief, which Sazed explains is a noble's way of asking a girl out. And there's this cute little scene where she's like, he's too young, and he's like, he's 1 year younger. She's like, no, I'm 17. Oh. Sazed reveals that.
Kind of sad that they don't know her. Like, she never told them her birthday. When was her birthday?
Well, when does that come up in a conversation about overthrowing the God King and his government? Oh, by the way, my birthday was last week. Thanks for the cake.
They're your friends.
They should have got her some of those ministry cupcakes from like chapter 2.
Oh
Yeah.
those little cakes.
Yeah.
Sazed reveals that Ham and Eden are both married and that time is short. We jump to when Vin finds Doxson. She asks about his past. He explains that it's not anything really unique, and that he was a plantation scob but ran away when his love was killed by their kind lord. Vin is appalled and defends certain lords that she spends a lot of time with, but Doxson explains that they're all the same underneath. And I'm reading now, my note is Vin wonders if Vin has killed any, but it really means Vin wonders if Elend has killed any. And that was chapter
I like
22.
that conversation she has, like, with Doxson, because in the previous chapter, Ham was talking about, Ska are different, right? Like, I've been wondering, are we, maybe we are made to be ruled,
Mm-hmm.
And Doxson has a cool line where he says that, Ska still fall in love. And I think that kind of proves Kelsier's point a little bit of, like, we deserve better than this. We deserve to be treated better.
Yeah.
Just that aspect of it alone, the Ska still fall in love, and they would do anything. Like, he used to sneak across to the other hovels at night to see her, and then I can imagine just the trauma of, like, her being taken away and then killed one day.
We kind of
Which is
saw
very
that
similar.
in the prologue.
Yeah. Like, him and Kelsier have, like, two sides of the same coin. Like, that similar thing happens to both of them, but Dox is so much more down to earth about it.
Yeah, he even says, that's why I don't care when Kelsier just starts killing noblemen. There is no lost love with Dox and Kelsier and the nobleman.
Yeah.
But the big reveal of this chapter is the second magic of Feruchemy.
Which is very exciting
Yeah.
to finally learn a little bit more about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not for us. We already knew.
Yeah.
We know all the answers.
But it is kind of cool to see, like, in the store, different
And we can finally talk
attributes.
about it.
Yeah.
And we could finally call it by its name.
Yes. Like
Yeah,
strength,
true.
which is why when he was wearing glasses a few chapters ago, it's because he had used up his sight, most likely to see Vin in the dark and find her when she had run off to Luthadel.
And that's how he punched the Inquisitor into next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had his strength.
Super strength.
Big, bulky. That's also why he looked big when Vin saw a big robed figure walking towards her.
Oh, yeah.
And that's also
Yep.
why when Sazed was coming, when Spook was like looking out and said, "There's a big man in a robe, like walking towards the shop."
Yeah.
It was Sazed with his strength.
Yeah.
And that's
Carrying
why
Vin.
they call the wiki a copper mind.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that yet. We don't know about that yet. We don't know what the metals are. Okay, that's not
Stay
well,
tuned
that
to the
spoiler.
spoiler section.
Spoilers at home. Copper.
Copper is the one that they
Mind.
use to store memories and stuff like that.
We know different alloys store different attributes. They do. I think they do say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically, think of the metals that Allomancers use. There's a connection
He did
for
say
them.
that the copper ones store memories.
He did? Yeah,
Yes,
you're right.
He does say that in this chapter, so it's not a
Yeah.
spoiler. We got
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Alright, does
Finally.
anyone have anything else to say about chapter 22 before we move on?
You're very excited. You are 3-0 with all the ball chapters.
Did we miss the bit about the handkerchief?
No, we got that.
We did. Okay,
Th-
good.
that's
I'm sorry.
Spook-
I must have
Yeah.
just blacked out for a second there.
Spook gave the handkerchief to her, which, if you know, I don't know, if you've seen Shrek, you probably know the trope.
Yeah.
But for any random.
What is this in Shrek?
So
I
in
missed that.
Shrek, after Shrek rescues Fiona, Fiona gives him her handkerchief as a token of her affection, and he like wipes his face with it, and then he's like,
Yeah.
"Here you go," and she's like,
Huh?
"Okay."
This guy.
Yep. All right. So are we ready?
Yep.
So yes, I am 3 for 3 for ball chapters because I like them. So this is our third ball chapter. So in this chapter, Vin is at yet another ball, and she is wearing her black dress. She decided to wear her black dress. So, and it starts off with her talking to a group of noblemen and ladies, and within this group is a woman named Lady Kliss, who is the court gossip. Who is
We all know the type.
We all know
There's
the type.
always one of them in a friend group.
Yeah, so she's talking to them about different like court gossip. She tells them about the person who Kelsier had dropped dead on the lawn of that one house that I'm blanking on right now.
A few chapters back, yeah.
Trusting, I think. But
Tikio, maybe?
Tikio, there it is. And then when what is this? What are you doing, John?
Sean's
Oh,
starting the live stream.
it's the scene that you're about to discuss.
Cool.
Oh,
Little
okay.
Animation there.
All right, wonderful. I was just like,
That's
what are
fire.
you doing?
I happened to stumble across this and it's appropriate.
So
Okay.
Vin tries to leave, and then right as she's trying to leave, Kliss is like, "Well, you wouldn't hear my latest news." So Vin stays and hears what the latest news is, and the latest news is that twice as many ska thieving bans have been hit as usual, and that the Ministry isn't leaving any survivors in
Dun, dun,
any of the
dun.
thieving crews.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun,
She's like,
dun.
I'm in one of those.
So as they're talking, Lady Shan Alariel comes over and starts being rude to Vin again, as usual. And Vin is like, again, I guess she's bored, so she's gonna come and be mean to me because that's what she does when she's bored.
Yep.
And the rest of Vin's group leaves her alone with Shan. And so they wait, okay. Where was I? There we go. So she tells Vin to look at Ellen's books for her, to look through Ellen's books and to report back to her what the titles of the books are. Vin doesn't really like this and is like, I'm gonna tell Ellen what your plans are. And Shan is like, you don't even know what my plans are, so how can you tell him what my plans are? Like, you don't
She's
know
like,
what.
damn, she's good.
And it was like, I guess she's right. Whatever.
She's too smart.
And she walks away, and she wanders back to her table, and then she sees Ellen across the hall. And throughout this entire time, the conversation with Doxson has been going through her head about the nobleman killing the ska women
Ska.
after
Sleeping with them.
sleeping with them. So this has been going through her head a lot, and she wants to talk to Ellen about it to see if this is something that he's done, because she's worried about it, because she doesn't want it to be that way. So she sees him across the hall, and she goes to talk to him, because not only does she want to talk to him about that, he's also been avoiding her at the balls lately, and she's kind of annoyed about it. So she wants to go talk to him, and she confronts him about the fact that he's been avoiding her, and he's like, I haven't been avoiding you. I just don't really like the people that you're hanging out with, and I figured you weren't gonna like being with me anymore. That you didn't need me hanging out with you. And at this point, he sees that her eyes have started tearing up. So he pulls her outside of the ballroom onto a little like terrace space outside to talk to her, to pull her away from everyone else so she can cry in peace.
Can I just say, I like that detail a lot. Like, because Vin has to schmooze with these people to get information, and she clearly doesn't like them. And, like, I don't know, we've all kind of been there where, like, someone you know and someone you like is, like, hanging out with a crowd that you just don't want to have anything to do with.
But she's
And
having to do
it's
it
like,
on purpose.
Well,
yeah.
She has to do it, like, and she tells him that. She's like, well, like, you can say that because you don't have to play the game because you're at the top. Like,
Yeah. And this is where the chapter takes a nosedive for me.
What? No!
I don't like Vin breaking down randomly. Like, it's just...
It's not random. She's totally got the appropriate stimulus.
She's a 17-year-old girl. She's a 17-year-old girl.
Breaking down crying.
17-year-old girl.
I don't know, just emotionless Vin just randomly crying. Like, if she, like, did it in a way to, like, trick the answer out of him.
She's not emotionless.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like...
We've heard about this in the past. Like, when she was a child, every time that they moved from crew to crew, she cried at the loss of the people that she knew. So this isn't surprising. She is emotional, and she does have emotion. She's just trying to keep it pushed down, and it just came to a bubble. Like, it happens.
I just,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, I understand it. I don't think Vin, like,
I greatly
doing that.
disagree with you.
I personally love it because it's like, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on your summary a little bit here,
Good.
but I love it because she's crying. She's had this mask on this whole time, and it's finally coming off, and it's literally like her tears wipe away her makeup. It's like literally wiping away her mask. Like she's just coming out and saying, she's like, everything that's been on her mind. Like she's like, you know what, I actually do care about you. Like I need to know this. Like it's hurting me to think that you do this.
And I like that. I like her confronting her feelings for Alan. I just don't like her breaking down crying. Like, have you slept with any ska woman? Had them killed? Like, I don't know. Like, if she had teased that information out of him, like, hey, I'll answer one question you asked me in exchange. You've got to answer this.
You have obviously never interacted with an emotional 17-year-old girl.
No, I have not. Sorry. I was the loner at 17. I wasn't invited to any friend groups.
I'm so sorry, but this is very typical for 17-year-old girls. They're very emotional and they will cry at the drop of a hat.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
And if you're like a man and a girl that you care about is crying, it like changes you. It activates something in you. You like all the anger that you had, like any predispositions, they're just gone. You're like, oh
yeah,
she's crying.
I'm with Ellen. I agree with what Ellen does in response to what Vin. I just don't agree that Vin would do this. I don't know. I could just be wrong.
I will respectfully disagree with you, but let's move on for now. Okay,
because she's super tough.
So, she asks him while she's crying if he slept with any of the ska women, and he is really uncomfortable with this question. And he's like, "Who told you this?" And she's like, "So have you?" And he's like, "I did once when I was 15, I think was what he says,
like
or 13, or something like
something
that."
along that.
It was 13.
It might have been 13. Is that
time for you to be a man, son?
Yeah, his father had him do it, and he didn't know that the woman was going to be killed afterwards. So, Vin is like comforted by this that he hasn't done it since. So she's very comforted by that fact that and she believes him and she wants to believe him, and she tells it in her mind. She's like, this isn't, why do I want to believe him? I shouldn't want to believe him, but I do really want to believe that this is true. So she does. So she kind of calms down a little bit, and she uses the handkerchief that she got from Spook to like dab at her makeup, and it gets covered in makeup. And then Ellen gives her his handkerchief to and she like wipes her tears away. And then she tells him that Ska she realizes that he genuinely is a caring person. And so she tells them that Ska are just like noblemen. And that she had lied to him before about saying that she had never talked to the Ska on her plantation, and that she was actually very close with them and had gone out to talk with them a lot.
I like how she repurposes Dachshund's story.
Yeah, she repurposes Dachshund's story and talks about how there was a Ska on the plantation who had
run away.
a woman and who had been killed by a nobleman and who had run away.
Yep.
And she tells him about how the Ska hide runaway Ska to keep them from being punished. Sorry.
Which is a sad but historically realistic
Mm-hmm.
aspect of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, yeah. I was thinking that too when I read this. Like, this, I mean, yeah, you're just so right. Like, that's what they would do, because they had to send the message. And it was like, deserters got treated the worst historically throughout armies, throughout slavery, like anyone who deserted was usually held super accountable for that because that was their worst thing.
Yeah. So she talks to him about that, and then she realizes she needs to stop, so she stops talking, and she's like, we should go inside, and she tries to hand back Ellen his handkerchief, and she says thank you for it, and he's like, nope, that's for you, because it wasn't just intended as a
handkerchief.
as a handkerchief. It means something more. And he's like, well, that other guy has a little bit of a lead on me, but I'm not gonna fall behind. So showing that he is intending that he does like her and that he does want to court her, and to see her more often. And it's really cute and
Aw.
really sweet.
Yeah.
So they go back into the ballroom, and Vin goes to talk to Sazed, and Sazed is like, is that another handkerchief?
Oh, come on.
Why? But you've been busy.
Yeah.
I haven't been gone for 5 minutes.
And Ellen goes to talk with his friends, and Vin asks Sazed if she has permission to use allomancy to go listen on his meeting with his friends. And she hasn't been able to use jumping allomancy thus far. But Sazed gives her permission, excuse me, so that she can go and use steel pushing and iron pulling. So she's so excited to be back out in the mist. And she jumps up and she like listens in on their conversation a little bit, and then she hears a Vin, and she gets like really startled. She looks up and she sees none other than
Kelsier.
hanging on the roof. And she's like,
Who
what?
are you expecting?
Yeah.
He's like, I knew you'd come here eventually.
No,
I've been spying on them too.
Yeah, well, he didn't know that she would be there.
No.
But he's like, I've been spying them a couple times since you told me about them. And he's convinced that it's not anything important. It's just noblemen making alliances for when they eventually take over their houses. It's not anything unusual. And Kelsier's like, I promise not to tell Sazed that you snuck out. Wink, wink. And she's like, actually, he gave me permission. Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry.
And then they agree to meet back at Cloves' shop, which is where the chapter ends.
I want to bring up a few things. Let me pull up my notes just to be sure. He also promises not to kill them, which is like the highest honor Kelsier can bestow upon a noble.
It is. It honestly is to promise not to kill them.
And since I was dissing on Vin a little bit, I will diss a little bit on Elend, and how after being told about this, hey, you're kind of helping Ska, and he promises not to tell anyone, he immediately goes to his club and is like, hey guys, that girl I like, she told me this thing.
That's a good point.
That too.
Which I'm kind of upset that Vin didn't like, well, I guess people really don't keep the
They
truth.
really will betray you at any point.
Uh-huh.
She didn't think anything of that, huh?
No.
She didn't.
But you know what? That's kind of fair though, because like she immediately turned around and decided to spy on him.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, he really does like me. Let's go spy on him in the shower. Oh.
Dang.
Well,
Good
not really in the
point.
shower, but you know.
And she is excited that he's like telling them about her and how like he likes spending time with her more than he likes spending time with them a little bit. He's like, well, she's a pretty girl, so like
She's like, you think I'm pretty?
And they're just kind of like, hey, this is a boys' club.
yeah, they're like, she's not allowed to join because this is a boys only club.
Yeah. 5
Sorry.
is enough, bro. Bro.
Yeah.
It would
Ellen
be
has one of
interesting.
the-
It would be interesting to think about what the book would be like if Ellen's friends had agreed to invite Valette to their little like shindig thing.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would solve any problems.
I feel like that would raise a few.
No, that would definitely have gotten a whole lot of them dead at the hands
Yeah.
of Kelsier.
Well, Kelsier promised not to kill them.
Yeah, but as we just discussed, those promises can be dropped at very short notice.
Yeah, true.
Also, if they had let her in, then no wait, that's
All right.
Spoilers.
Anything else for
I
23?
wanted to mention this. I just wanted to read this little exchange that I feel like every Cosmere fan can relate to, where Ellen says, "Did you read the book I gave you?"
Uh-huh.
And his friend tells him, says, "I tried, but it was a bit thick." And Ellen said, "But it's good, right?"
But it's good, right? I love that. This is why Ellen is my favorite character.
Yeah. I love Ellen. He's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I keep taking his chapters.
I won't let you have all of them.
What about you, John? You have anything to pull out for this one?
No, I'm just enjoying watching the interaction between Reader and Kay here, like
The Ellen love triangle.
Porn.
I will say Vin is full Batman in this chapter. She goes to a ball, and then she immediately stalks in the night.
Yeah.
You people thought I was crazy for comparing her to Batman. Here she
Fully
is.
converted.
Dark Knight.
I mean, she is wearing a black dress this time. So, you know.
Yeah, true. And then covers it in soot. Pardon me. So chapter 24. This is really the highest, I think, any of the chapters have been. This is the high right before the low. So Vin returns to the club and finds that Hammond is back, and he remarks how much she has changed since he left, and a lot of fun little comments are made that this is a night to relax. I'm paraphrasing a lot in this chapter because a lot of it can be cut. Han comments how much Doxson notices that one of the shirts that Hammond is wearing the best is a shirt with a sleeve story. He's like, those cost money. It's like, well, money is physical effort, and it took physical effort, so we're square. It's a lot funnier in the actual book, but that's a favorite scene for a lot of us.
A physical representation of the abstract concept of effort.
Uh-huh. I used that on my economics teacher once. He's like, where the heck did you learn that? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
Also, Doxson comes in and immediately sees that Vin has also ruined her dress, and he's like, as long as we keep Vin's wardrobe budget under check, and then looks at her, and is like, what did you do?
Oh, come on!
Come on!
And you with the sleeves.
He's like,
he's got he's got a book, and he's like, gosh darn it.
I'm trying to keep the budget in check.
Yeah. That was actually Kelsey asked for a small warehouse, and Doxson scolds Vin for ruining another dress.
Yep.
Breeze arrives and sees Hammond is back, and he kind of groans, but he's happy to see him. And then we have this amazing exchange where everybody starts speaking in southern street slang and mocking Breeze.
Eastern
street slang. Sorry. And they're all kind of mocking Breeze.
Does anyone know what that was? Does anyone have a rough translation?
Let me look at it.
A lot of it is gibberish.
Let me pull it up.
They just kind of
Here.
Nice,
and this is what gets cut out.
Playing without.
Nice. You don't play nice is basically what he said. Losing the stress on the nip. I don't really understand that. I know what it's saying, but I can't express that one. Nodding with the need to care. He doesn't really care. Riding the Ryle of the Ridge to the right. I feel like that one's he's on the wrong side of the tracks or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But then we get this excellent scene where everybody sort of joins in. First Kelsier, then Hammond. And I kind of wish Vin made a little comment as well, but I can understand why she didn't. But then he turns to Doxson. He's like, these people are crazy. And he's like, wuzzing is as wuzzing does. It's just the funniest little scene.
I want to steal that line.
I love saying that so much. And we see kind of
what it means there. He's what spook what it means. Spook is like nothing. It's like he didn't say anything.
He didn't make whatever he said. It didn't make any sense.
He's like he said something. It just didn't mean anything.
Yeah. But then and then everybody's laughing and joking. And it's really a nice little scene. And Vin is even like kind of laughing with her own little cup. And it's a nice scene to show how much she has grown in these past months. And out of the
Yeah.
corner of her eye, kind of on the second story where her room is, she sees a scared little girl covered in soot, watching but not entering. And I love this scene so much. And it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And she's happy that Kelsier brought her into the crew. Um, Kelsier says that the army is almost ready. Marsh is in place. We have not seen Marsh in a while. Ekiel, one of the great houses, is running away. Hammond is going to go to the garrison to spy, and Vin wants to join him to learn about Pewter. We cut to that. Ham talks about his family and that he's doing all this work for them, and that thugs, or as the nobility call them, pewter arms, which I prefer.
I agree.
I prefer pewter arm. That
I
sounds
agree with you
so
on
much
this one.
cooler.
Less derogatory.
I like thug.
I like pewter arm. And that they're well sought out because if you think about it, if you have a coin shot who's basically a person with a gun and a thug, a person who's super strong, that's a mobile army.
Gangster.
Vin worries about Kel and what may happen if he takes the throne. She also silently worries about his hate for nobility. And Ham worries about his actions recently too, and that he, Dox, and Breeze are planning an intervention.
Which
I
I think
want to
is
see
really
that
fun.
so bad.
I think it's so funny that they're planning an intervention with Cal.
I really would have liked to see it. I can't escape this cough. Hammond explains that pewter should be used sparingly, and that using it too much, such as pewter dragging, can kill you. Kind of right then that Certus, the captain of the garrison, shows up and says that the rebel Ska have attacked the northern city, and it kind of sends everybody into a panic.
Rebel scum.
And that's pretty much chapter
Red
24.
alert!
Red alert!
And Ham agrees to go with the garrison.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that Vin will never use pewter for a long period of time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, she's never
Absolutely.
gonna
We would never have to
overuse
learn what
that.
that means.
Yeah, what that's like.
But I do like Hammond's use of pewter and how he only uses it when he's ducking to be faster, when he's trying to get a better position. Whilst with Kelsier, it's more like, I'm just going to flare pewter because I got to be strong right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more about finesse than it is about. It's like using it as an assistance, like knowing when to punch really hard versus punching lightly. For someone, it's the same thing. So when do you want to flare your pewter versus not use it? Like, it's useful in some situations and not as much in others.
Which is once again an example of the power also being good in its weakness.
Nice. I like that Vin asked if she could spend time with him to learn more about pewter. It shows like a real growth from where before Kelsier was like, "Hey, you need to go hang out with Marsh.
Yeah.
She's gonna tell you about being a seeker." You know.
And
Now she's like, I want to learn more.
And when she does that, Kelsier's like, "Why? You already know how to burn pewter. Why do you need to hang out with Ham?" That doesn't make
Showing
any
how
sense.
Kelsier really doesn't understand the specialties of the metals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't.
But this is probably the best chapter, like overall, just for like happiness in the entire book.
It's
Yeah,
that
it's
warm,
like hanging with the
fuzzy
crew.
moment that really makes the struggle that they've all been going through seem worthwhile.
And we've seen it. We sort of saw it, like Vin was saying, when right before she was first taught about Allomancy and how they're all laughing in the kitchen. But now we're actually seeing it, and Vin is there with them.
Yes,
And it's just,
to participate.
And I love
Family.
that she could see herself sort of up in the corner. I love it. I love it
And
so
the
much.
hammer
She could
fell.
see a past version of herself.
Yep. And then the hammer fell.
Yeah. The other
Just
shoe
like
dropped.
Sky.
Yep. You know it had to. Hey.
And then the
Bye.
winter held.
John, is this your chapter?
It is.
The river.
So
We need to stop.
we'll start with the epigraph here real quick because I think it's particularly dramatic. No man dies by my hand or command except that I wish there had been another way. Still, I kill them. Sometimes I wish that I weren't such a cursed realist. What?
Very dramatic.
What?
Very dramatic.
Just got real. All right, so red alert, panic ensues. Everybody's running around in a mad rush, trying to beat the
A
garrison.
white run.
Kelsier, I'm gonna back it up. Kelsier decides that he needs to try and beat the garrison forces to the caves and prevent as much of the slaughter as he can, get the people out, save the lives of as many people as he can. He starts passing out tasks. You do this, you go warn the other crews. Even Breeze is like, I'm out, let's go, let's do this. You know, he's not quipping or complaining or whining about anything. He's just like, get it done.
Everybody's running around like, shoot, this is red alert. We might have to leave.
Showtime.
Yeah.
So just before he finally leaves, you know, he turns around and, oh, there's Vin with a bag, just like his. And he realizes he's not getting out of there alone, one way or the other.
Nope.
So rather than giving her vials of pewter, he gives her bags, like a bag of pewter beads. And she's like, oh, okay. And he's like, swallow 5 of these. And she's like, say
5?
And then he says, pack all the water you can. And
As much as you can carry.
Yeah, as much as you can carry.
Which with pewter is probably a lot.
Yeah, probably more than the
Oh,
pack
yeah.
itself can hold, volume-wise. So they kind of make their way out of the city, and then one of my favorite, like, hilarious moments in this chapter, they go to leap the wall using 2 poor schmucks wearing breastplates as springboards. And I love imagining these 2 guys going home to their wife and kids and being like, I had the craziest day. These 2 random people just came barreling down at a literal gallop, faster than a horse, magically pushed us down to the ground, and then jumped straight over the freaking wall.
With their psychic mind powers.
That's nice,
And they were
dear.
roommates.
Are you sure you're okay? Are you feeling well? You know,
Yeah.
like,
How's the
just-
garrison treating you?
Maybe you should take a day off.
Yeah.
But anyway, they kind of, Vin and Kelsier kind of talk. Vin talks about how this is easier than she thought it was going to be, and Kelsier's like, stop talking, save your energy, go, run, now, go. And she's like, well, what do you think we're going to find? And he's like, we'll find out in 16 hours. And she's like, what?
16 hours.
Also,
When are we there
I
yet?
like that when they get out of the city, Vin is like, I thought he was gonna slow down, but he instead he
doesn't.
sped up. And
Uh-huh.
it goes
Yeah.
faster once they're out of the city.
Mimi.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine in my mind what the level between comical and realistic is in speed-wise. Like, they're not doing
Sure.
the Flash level.
No,
But
but
I'm
they
wondering-
might be doing Roadrunner.
Yeah.
I mean, I always picture this as like they're booking it out of town and kicking up the clouds of ash, and it just looks like that trail the Roadrunner leaves behind. You know, like
That's what I'm envisioning too, but I'm trying to, like, in my mind, trying to find, like, okay, if I were to film this, how would it look?
Oh, have any of you ever seen Kung Fu Hustle?
oh yeah.
The movie. It's like that scene where the old lady's chasing the guy, and that's what I picture.
They're actually making a sequel to that. But anyway,
No way. Sorry, we can move on.
So they keep running and they keep running and they keep running, and she, like, Vin eventually starts to get kind of delirious. She's like, must keep running. I hate him. I hate everything.
I hate
Life
running.
is
Why
pain
must
and
I keep running?
And then they finally stop, and she's like, this is wrong. I have to keep running.
It's like running is all I have.
So Kelsier physically restrains her, and then she starts to get a little woozy, and he's like, don't stop burning pewter, you'll pass out. I need you.
And tells her to flare tin.
Yep.
10. Flare it now.
Yes. So she flares the tin for that burst of sensory like overload to kind of like clear her mind and refocus. Which I always wondered at when I was reading this the first time. Like, would you really like kind of snap to from just having like visual stimulation? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it's visual,
Well,
feeling, like
Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of snaps your brain.
It's
you
it's
know,
kind of similar to like having cold water tossed on you. Like it
Yeah.
shocks your system, like because
Mm.
it's like an overload of like sensory information.
we also have seen Kelsier do it in the past when he robbed House
Venture.
Venture.
Yeah, I mean, it happens a few times, but that was like one of the things that when I was going through it the first time, I kind of always wondered about that, and then like going back through it, I'd been exposed to it so many times that it's like, yeah, okay, this is just kind of how it works. Whether
Yeah.
it's right or wrong or outside of my experience, whatever, it's how it works, you know.
Mm.
And I guess it does make sense because that'd be like if somebody flashed a bright light in your eyes, which I actually did to myself today earlier. It was an accident, but I totally should have seen it coming.
Ah.
So anyway, Kelsier's first reaction when they stop is to listen and they hear the sounds of battle. And he's like, I'm going in. And she's like, no, you can die. We are mortal, remember?
We are
You
not
can
invincible.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
You're not invincible.
you can't win against 3,000 men.
Mhm.
Right. And she kind of grounds him and says, what about the people back at the cave? There's probably still people there. And he's like, I don't like it, but you're right. Let's go. Kind of has a little like mini pout for a second, and he's like, fine, go. So they book it for the caves, and when they get in there, lo and behold, Vin was right. And who should they find but Demoux? And I forget how many they said. Was it like 2,000 people?
Yeah, I would say at first is that Kelsier thought that there wasn't anyone there and was really upset at Ben for pulling him away from the
Mhm.
battle.
Right. Yes. Because they had put out all the torches and everything, so it was like basically pitch dark, and Vin spots just the tiniest little glint of light.
Uh-huh.
And
Kelsier's like, how did she see that?
How did
yes, which is actually important. Remember that moment for later, children. So, they convince Demoux and the remaining recruits that they need to get out of there, and they grab their, get out of town fast packs, and they make for the woods. When they finally make camp, Kelsier is kind of sitting on a tree stump or whatever and putting himself up for over instilling confidence in the army and making them feel like they could handle more than they could, making them cocky.
Pride.
And yeah, he's blaming himself for that. And we see another familiar face, Menace from the prologue.
Woo!
Makes his return 300 and some odd pages later. And he says, this was a terrible defeat, but it was also the best victory the Sky have had in decades, if not centuries. And Kel's like, yes, but I did this. I killed all those men. And he's like, whoa. Slow your roll there, buddy. You didn't kill anybody. They chose to do
Don't
this.
flatter yourself.
Yeah, right? Like, your head's a little bigger than it needs to be. And then they talk about the original advice that Menace gave to Kelsier, which was to know how to pick your battles. And now he says, my advice to you now is to know when to quit. Kelsier hears that, and he's like, no, when did we get so far down that a slaughter is considered a victory?
I don't know when to quit.
Picks himself up by his bootstraps. He says, no, you thought that was a victory? You ain't seen nothing yet. And then that's when he decides he's going to go ahead and continue his plan.
And he smiles.
I love it too.
And he smiles.
He forces that smile, yeah.
Because that's the one thing the Lord Ruler can't kill. Foreshadowing.
I love it. In my chapter, he was talking about bilge, and he literally thought, some men just don't know when to quit. And now You're seeing that he
He's
happens
one
to
of
be
them.
one of them. Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for Bilge because, like, he forces Bilge to fight and is then, like, angry that he's doing so and wants to kill him. Like, we even saw, like, sorry, Bilge, it has to be someone. And then he's like, no, he must die. And then probably Bilge was like, wait a second, superpowers? Yeah. And he's probably one of the people who went to fight. And now he is dead.
And Bilge was like totally in the right. Like even Kelsier knew they didn't really have the ability to overthrow like the Final Empire. Like they had an army and they were training, but they still weren't as cohesive and strong as a unit as the garrison and all the forces that the Lord Ruler employs. Like he was totally right.
Yeah.
I guess the takeaway from all that is that Kelsier always gets what he wants eventually.
Yeah. But it was nice seeing Menace. How rare is it that like a character from a prologue shows up?
I mean, in Sanderson
in
books,
this
always.
In Sanderson books, yeah. But like
this
That's a
series,
great
like-
point.
not
in
so
like
much.
regular fantasy, like if we're counting on the trope, you've got the prologue, which is like a foreshadowing of the great evil or the evil king that's coming, and like you typically never see that character again. And Menace in this part kind of serves as that old man mentor in a sense. Like, here, let me pass on a little bit of knowledge to you.
I
Yeah.
really like too that like from Menace's perspective, this was all worth it. Even if they died fighting the Final Empire, like he's kind of thinking like, you know what? I died fighting. I went out in a badass way. Like that's good enough for me. But Kelsier's like no, we have to win. Like we literally I wasn't doing this for the sentiment of it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Alright.
There
Does,
was
does anyone have anything else to add before we go to the spoiler section?
I forgot to mention, we have confirmed in the book that the Diary of the Lord Ruler is the same thing as the epigraph.
Yes.
I should have mentioned that.
Yes.
Yeah. In the very
'Cause that was
first
21, right?
yeah. When Kelsier's
Yeah.
reading the book, we see a couple of the epigraphs stitched in. Or
Sometimes I worry I'm
From
not
where
the
they
hero
were.
everyone thinks I am.
yeah,
Yeah.
wasn't that the very
Like if you
first
couldn't
one?
figure it out already.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like we see that. So the epigraphs are by the Lord Ruler. Oh boy.
Boom.
Mhm.
So as
Oh,
they
Which
read,
happens in other Sanderson books sometimes.
And somewhere in one of these chapters, one of the things was said. Did you already
One
add
of-
the counter? There's always another secret.
yep, I added a
right,
third
right.
counter. So we've got a small counter going in our Discord. There's always another secret. There have been 3 of those so far.
Excellent.
If we're
Great.
ready to go to spoilers, can we take a second and figure out what chapters we're reading next week, and then we can tell the listeners?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do chapters 26 to 29. 4 chapters.
Good deal.
Wow, we're gonna have 1 chapter each. It's been a long time.
Yes.
All right, you heard it here, listeners. Next episode, we're going to be reviewing Mistborn: The Final Empire Part 4, entitled Dancers in a Sea of Mist, chapters 26 to 29. We're going to head off into the spoiler section. If you have not read the Mistborn series or even the Cosmere in general, we do not recommend you sticking around. But by all means, you are free to do so because we are going to talk about anything and everything. If this is where we leave you, we thank you very much for sticking around so far, and we hope you have a great night. And we're back. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to ask, what was that thing about why was Vin noticing the light super important?
Because it alludes to the fact that she kind of has that allomancy, the different allomancers have slightly different strengths
Yeah, but we've
for
known
their
that.
powers.
I just thought that was. I didn't think that was a
No.
super important detail. Like, yeah, we knew that with when she did the steel pushing match with Kelsier and the coin.
Yeah, but it's another indication of that.
Okay, I just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah, it's just another indication that she's stronger than she should be. And that different allomancers can have different strength in their allomantic ability.
Why is she so much stronger?
Her
Is there a
just
reason?
allomantic genetic line is stronger than Kelsier's. Just over time, allomancy gets diluted in the bloodstream. It's just Vin's is more potent.
That and her stud.
Yeah, but that's just for seeking.
Right.
In which I didn't want to bring it up because it would have been way too much, but Vin's thinking about Reen, I wonder if you would have enjoyed it if we joined a crew like this, as she's playing with the stud.
Oh, jeez. That's awesome.
Hmm.
I was going to say, when she sees that young beat up girl looking in at the party and not joining in, it's kind of like she's burning the 11th metal.
Or gold, I thought it
And-
was.
Yeah.
Or runes
Yeah.
poking her
It
brain.
is gold. And I wrote down the 11th metal was the friends you made along the way.
I put down in my notes, like, gold. Like, I wonder if Kelsier put gold in her drink or something there. But that's how I always kind of envision it. This is sort of like how gold would be.
Yeah.
Also,
Can we talk about the
Oh, go ahead.
epigraphs? Can we talk about the epigraphs real quick?
Of
Sure.
course.
Which one specifically? We'll go back to chapter 21.
21 and 23.
21.
The hero
So-
of ages.
That hero of ages shall be not a man, but
Eh,
a force. No
Technically.
nation may claim him. No woman shall keep him, and no king may slay him. He shall belong to none, not even himself.
Sounds like Sazed.
This sounds like Vin, almost. But then gets tricked into being Caesar.
Nope, it can't be Vin
Huh.
because no king shall keep him. And Ellen becomes king, and they are.
Ellen becomes
So-
emperor. Though.
But he's king first.
He is,
Eh.
yeah, he's king of Luthadel first.
Yeah, but Vin
Yeah.
wears
But
the
she's still going
pants.
back and forth on whether she wants to be with Ellen at that point. She only truly decides it after
No,
they've
it
went
says-
away.
It says no.
It
says-
seems like a stretch.
It says no nation may claim him, which Ellen's nation does claim Vin.
So there you go.
Yeah,
that's
but
another-
Vin's never attached herself to a nation. She's always jumped around.
Well, up until the end, there's only one nation to be a part of.
You guys are really going to argue over the fact that Brandon Sanderson set it up so it would look like Vin?
I mean,
But-
at this point, it's
my-
not.
No,
It
you
doesn't
did.
have to look like Vin at this point because they haven't.
At this
the
point,
prophecies
it's just
haven't been,
Ambiguous prophecy. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
so-
they haven't been tailored yet.
they
So-
haven't been altered to fit Vin yet.
Right.
Well, no, I know that Ruin
Whoa.
fits them, but I'm saying Brandon wrote it so that we would think it's Vin, because Vin being main character, that's sort
Well,
of what you would think.
Well,
Whilst
we
sneaking Sazed in the
yeah.
between the lines.
My point is that
Sneaky
that epigraph doesn't sound like Vin. It sounds like Sazed. It doesn't. There are parts of it that don't make sense with Vin and who she is.
Yeah.
or even Kelsey.
Currently.
Or
Because
No.
even Kelsier, yeah.
Hmm.
Because the no woman
guys ever
shall keep
notice-
him.
right, and
Like-
You
Yeah,
ever
but-
notice how Reen kind of sounds like Ruin?
It does a little bit, yeah.
It's like two
Yeah,
letters
so-
off.
I also wanted to talk about the epigraph in chapter 23, where it talks about the thumping. And
Ah,
above it
yes.
all, I hear the thumping
Oh,
noises
yeah.
from
Alendi
above,
was
the
a
pulsing
seeker.
from the mountains, drawing me closer with each beat.
Alendi was a seeker.
He was.
Which that's straight from the third book, right?
Mhm.
Vin's hearing the thumping like
The
whole
second
time.
book.
The second one.
second book.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Yep. But Alendi was one of the few mistings of pre-ascension.
And it's also
What ab-
an it also in chapter 22 talking about the infecting every part of the land and talking about how crops fail and the lands die. It's foreshadowing for what happens in book 3.
Yeah.
I like how when she's reading that book and she's talking to Sazed about it, she says like, Vin's reading, and she's like, "Hey, if there's anything in here about terracemen that might be important,
That's why
I'm not gonna know about it unless you tell me."
That's why I wrote Vin used reverse psychology and it was super effective. But
Like, hopefully none of these secrets in this text are related to the terrace powers. Just saying.
which, holy cow, was Vin right? Let's see.
Yeah, that's so good.
Let me check my
So do you want to talk about Feruchemy for a second since we're on the topic?
Yeah.
Sure.
So one thing that kind of stuck out to me about Feruchemy as a whole, in a very spoilery way, is that you have one metal, tin, that stores multiple things.
Yep.
Whereas all the rest are very, very specific things. You're looking at cadmium stores breath.
Yeah,
Andalite
but with
stores energy.
tin, you need 5 different ones. You can't store all your senses in one tin metal mind.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It stands out amongst the others as being a single metal mind that can store multiple attributes.
Yeah.
Where are you going with that? I'm lost.
Oh, I wasn't going anywhere with it. I was just pointing that out.
Oh, okay. I was thinking maybe you were talking about how they eventually learn what the Lord Ruler's doing and how he's basically immortal. I was wondering if that related to that.
Yeah, no, it's not related to that.
I gotta check. I don't know these books as well as y'all.
And I don't either sometimes.
No, that's the next part. That's the next part where in the next part Vin talks to Sazed about storing age.
Ah,
Yeah, that will come up later.
great.
What metal is that? Do we know?
Atium.
Atium.
Or I'm sorry, atium. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Gold is
Gold
health.
is health. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, Wayne. Okay, I'm checking my notes. Demoux! Do you guys know the secret about Demoux?
At this
In
point.
Way of Kings?
Oh yeah.
It's sort of meta, in a way.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like he's named after a friend of Brandon, and Brandon promises your character will live. They will die of an old age, and they'll have a happy life.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it in the actual thing because that kind of ruins
Yeah, that's
any worry about it.
The Stormlight Archive.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it like tells you that he's gonna survive the books, so it's kind of
Yeah,
a little
but
bit of a
when-
spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Because he sticks around for like the whole series, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to know though how he becomes a world hopper.
I want to know how he got
17th
tangled
shard.
up with the 17th shard. That's what I
Yeah.
want to know.
And how he hooks up with Galadon?
Yeah. Well, that's
Galadon.
through the
That's
17th
going to
shard.
happen in Shadesmar.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And who's the other person that they're with?
That's whoever Chris's partner was.
Naz?
Naz?
Naz.
Are you sure that's Naz?
Yeah. Naz
I heard in a
was.
word of Brandon that's like a dead end. Like that interlude means nothing basically. Like
Yeah,
he had
because-
planned something for that, but
Hoyd sent them on a wild goose chase, and that was the end of the wild goose chase. Because they're asking about Hoyd, and even in one of the letters, Hoyd is basically saying, "Oh, by the way, those people you sent to me, they're over there getting lost."
Bayon
Oh, it's Bayon?
is the other
Bayon.
person who
Okay.
is who's one of the people from Taldane.
Yeah.
I really gotta read White Sands.
You do.
Nothing really spoiler. Nothing spoiler happens in 22-23. Bronze Pulsations. Kliss. I do want to bring up Kliss. 100% she knows who Vin is already. And that's why when she says, like, wait, Vin, I got a secret for you, she brings up the Ska Rebellion.
Yeah.
Not Ska Rebellion, but the thieving crews. She
I don't-
100%.
Oh.
I don't know if she necessarily knows who Vin is, because she didn't know who Vin was. She knows that Vin has been spreading misinformation for some reason.
I don't remember exactly, but I remember Kliss confronts her and is basically, I know your secret, or something.
Well, she knows that.
That's
I thought it was that she knows that Vin has been spreading misinformation.
Okay. Well, it could just be that. I could be wrong. Let's not spend an entire 30 minutes looking at the thing.
yeah.
I write down that Sean continues to be a storming light eyes.
God, she's
That's awesome.
so obnoxious.
I hate her.
Shana Lyriel.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hope she dies.
And let's
in
see.
this book.
In my notes, I've got gold for when she sees her old self. And Tekiel. Oh, I wanted to bring this up so much. The house that's abandoning ship. That would have been
Tekiel.
Vin's. Tekiel, that would have been Vin's house.
Ah,
Vin's
interesting.
father's
Really?
from.
Realize that.
Yep. Vin's father is
Oh.
from
Was it
Tekiel. But he has to renounce the house when you become an obligator. But Vin would have been in that.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Burning gold.
Yep.
You know, and it's entirely possible too, because presumably they'd be drinking from golden, like, goblets and stuff.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I wonder if that was a little bit of foreshadowing. I don't remember when when Kelsier shows it to her. She's like, "Wait a second, I've done this."
Yeah, but I mean, it could still also be Ruin just poking at her brain, because Ruin does later on, I believe, make her see things.
I don't remember that.
I think that's in book 3.
Well, yeah, when he
Oh,
makes
guess we'll-
Reen appear.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Oh wait,
yeah.
so I found it about Kliss.
Oh,
Reen.
great.
I was trying to. It was gonna bug me. So it's that so Kliss confronts her and is like, it's fascinating the kinds of things you can learn when you're known as the court gossip. People come to you to spread obvious lies, such as the things you told me about House Hastings last week. Why would you want me to spread such untruths? Could House Renew be making a bid for the weapons market during the House War? Indeed, could Renew be behind the recent attacks on the Hastings barges? So she's kind of like implying that that they're the ones who are to do with
Okay.
what's some of the things that have been going on, but
I
not
take it back then.
necessarily but not that Vin is
Ska.
Ska. Yeah.
I take it back. I gave Kliss too much credit.
Mhm.
Sounds a little bit like Chris.
Yeah, I was trying. After Ellens and Melons, though, I'm just done with the names right now.
Yeah, no, she just
Renew, Demoux.
she just thinks that she thinks that Vin is Valet and that she's just a distant cousin of Renew.
Okay.
So
But overall, in this chapter, like, nothing except for the obvious foreshadowings that we've already covered, with like Vin with Kelsier setting up that he's going to be a religion, the Lord Ruler being teased at that he's a feruchemist. Like, there was nothing really. This chapter was like, here's what's going on right now. Let's go.
Yeah, it was very hot seat action.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Is there any relationship between the caves that the rebels are hiding in and the Conjure caves? Or is that
yes,
completely separate?
they're
They're
all
nearby.
all of the cave systems are kind of interconnected. They're very
Mhm.
nearby to each other. But the Khandra have blocked off the entrances
Homelands.
to the homelands. The entrances to the
yeah.
homelands.
That's
so
a nice detail.
yeah.
I didn't even
So you
think
wouldn't be
about
able
that.
to figure that out.
No.
But I guess you're like aware the whole time, like, oh, there is like a vast network of caves out there.
Yeah, we
And
know.
for some reason, the Lord Ruler doesn't poke around in them.
Yeah.
Well, probably
I mean,
because of the Contra.
Yeah, but it also makes sense because like having to try to fight in
It's more-
those caves is more effort than it's worth. Like why would you try to fight battles within those caves when you can just wait for the rebels to come out and strike and kill them then?
Mm-hmm.
Or do like Dalinar and dump a bunch of oil down there and set the whole thing on fire.
Yeah.
Too soon?
Yeah.
We are Ska rebels and we want equal rights, but you could be fire.
What's that thrill? You want me to burn him? Okay.
Fire.
Change.
And I really gotta applaud Brandon's writing. Like, we get the highest chapter, the lowest chapter, and it's like not even for like a few chapters that we realized, wait a second, the plan kind of worked.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I wrote down take a good look. Because
I didn't want to say it.
See the crew. Yeah, I wanted to say it, but I didn't want to. You know.
And now the clue is
Yeah.
down 1. We lost Eden.
That's real sad.
Actually, I'll add that to a counter. I'll add lost crew members.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right, because they stuck his head on a spike.
They did?
Yep, they did. Along with
When
other
was that?
officers.
He
They
convinced
mentioned
the army to attack Holstead or whatever.
Yeah, they mention
Jeez.
it.
Seeing it.
They mention it in the chapter, in the last chapter, in chapter 25, that Kelsier sent a scout to go look and confirm that Eden was dead, and they said and they saw Eden's head on a spike.
Okay. That was kind of what I was envisioning them like on crosses or something. Like in my mind, it was a little bit just as gruesome. Like, nice to know. Oh, great! I'm at the same level. Really, you want 28? It's another ball chapter.
That's what I was laughing at.
Somebody doesn't wait.
That's why
You're
she
gonna have
took
to
so
give it
long.
one eventually.
Yeah, I'm taking when Ellen comes to save Vin.
Okay, fine.
And
I
we're
didn't
getting
have
close to the
anything
chapter
else.
I've called dibs on. We're getting close to when after Vin rescues Ellen and she confronts. That's what I wanted to bring up. This whole part kind of set up the fact that the crew are more noble than Ska. And that Kelsier is referred to Lord Kelsier, and that he says to Bilge, like, the noblemen have this way of fighting. Like, it really kind of sets up that they are not Ska.
And we see, like when Vin and Kelsier are leaving the city, they put on the mist cloaks and pretend to be nobles
Well, yeah,
Hmm.
but I'm
to
saying,
run
like,
out of the city. But it's another use of them using that privilege of noble society, and them and him thinking in that way as
yeah,
a
but
noble.
That's why they're fighting for the Ska. Because I mean, there's this thing I've been obsessed with lately called like learned helplessness,
Mhm.
and that's kind of what all the Ska are dealing with. They've been beaten down. They feel helpless, but like the crew themselves have lived these kind of extravagant lives in comparison, and they know that things shouldn't be that way, and that's why Vin has a hard time understanding that, right?
yeah. But yeah. I just wanted to bring that up. Like, this kind of set up the fact that the crew does not themselves see themselves as Ska, in a sense.
Which is gonna pay off later in that chapter you're excited about.
I love that chapter, because Vin just tears them a new one. Oh, I'm so excited for it.
Yep.
Oh, that's such a good moment.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
I
No?
got nothing.
You got nothing? What about you, John?
No, I'm pretty happy with what we've talked about here.
Okay.
Nope. I'm good. I like it.
Okay. So I guess this is it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Cosmere Connections. This has been Reader, joined by Swiggity,
Hey, see you later.
John,
Adios!
Kay,
Have a good one.
and remember, there's always another connection.